In case you don't know it, my name is Jim. I mean, some of you others may know me, that crazy guy who's back again. But my name is Jim. My friends and neighbors and my wife knows me as Jim. A little bit of my background. I have a doctorate in education. I had my own company for about 20 years. I was a certified marriage and family therapist. Actually, I even taught a class, a seminar on abnormal group psychology. Never thought I'd have to use it over the last couple of years, going back and referring to my notes. And in case you didn't know it, also I just found out that I was now a major media influencer. Nextdoor actually sent me an email congratulating me because my posts have had over 10,000 views. And when I started out, I never wanted to even have a view, let alone 10,000. And the comments that I've gotten after Rick Lawson started the transparency group and whatever, they've really been fascinating. Some of them have been extremely thoughtful and challenged me to think and rethink. In fact, I even had to call my associate, my friend from Ready Alert, Kevin Dobson, and ask him, give me some ideas here. What can I do about this? What's going on? Very thoughtful, and I very much appreciate it. Too many comments, actually, I thought really didn't deal much with common sense or with reality. And frankly, far too many comments made me remember why God gave us a middle finger. So anyway, we're here to talk about this, and we'll talk about what we're trying to do. We call this a cadre program, which is the Community AED Responders. Can you go to the next one? What it is, basically, and I'm really trying to abbreviate this, is that right now, I understand, and maybe you can tell me, we have 63 AEDs here scattered throughout the neighborhood. Most of them have been paid for by Showtime. And again, Showtime Entertainment, I asked Peter Stern or Stanley Dillard if they wanted to come. I know Stanley does have some medical issues too, but I asked Peter Stern if they're going to. They have contributed about 90% of them, I believe. I don't have any hard facts or any hard data, but I think about 90% of the ADs here in the club as well as in the neighborhoods have been through Showtime Entertainment, and they've been marvelous in doing that, supporting it. It's been an investment, frankly, over $300,000. If you want to add it up. What we talk about is that we have 8 documented saves. And I'm a very big believer in the AEDs. I wouldn't have done this for 18 months if I wasn't. I'm a very big believer in CERT and what CERT is doing with the CCC classes. In fact, we have a whole bunch of Verona residents next month who are going to sign up and take the class. I took it just last month for my 3rd time just to review my skills. But we have 8 documented saves, but, and here's the big but, they've all been on club property. Now think when you say club property, think of the Riviera, think of the ballroom, think of the Palms, think of the pickleball courts. Now, why do you think they've all been on club properties? And none of them, we have twice as many in the neighborhoods, but why do you think they've all been on club property? What's the common denominator here? What would that be? There were people around. There were people around who immediately were notified there was something wrong. Somebody had collapsed on the pickleball court, somebody on the table and by the Riviera. There were people around to assist. And that is one of the keys. Now, can you go to the next one? We looked at what's the connection here? We have over 63 AEDs in the neighborhood, and we have 4,500 people who have gone through the CCC classes, meaning we have the medical equipment. I actually went back and looked at other communities. We have house per house, more AEDs than any other community than I've been able to identify. We have house per house. More people who have gone through CCC classes, the check, call, compress classes, who know the CPR and know AED skills. And yet, here's our record. Our record is that we have not done very well in connecting the two, the assets that we have with the people who need it. If you go back over the records like I did, as you will find, you can go to the next one. you can find that we have about, and again, nobody's kept really hard records. We have about 4 or 5 times that I can recognize that the AEDs have been taken out of their case, including me, which last month I went and also I witnessed one. In fact, Diane was with me when that man collapsed on the street over in Alta Vista, and they ran to get the AED. I went over and I said to my good friend at that time, who unfortunately he's passed, my right-hand assistant, Brian Olson, dearly miss him. I said, you know what, we got to take a look. Why are we maintaining all these AEDs and we don't find anybody who's using them? Now, how do we know that? Well, it's very simple. All the AEDs here have a Ziploc tie that has to be broken if you're going to open them up. And when we did this for 18 months, I said to Brian, I said, isn't it unusual that none of these have been broken? They're not being used. There's something wrong here. So then we called and we asked, and we got 6 months worth of the ambulance calls for area code 34, our area code, Poinciana, 34759. And we went through and laboriously looked at every single one of the calls. They have a street and they have what the call was. Now, the first thing we did is we eliminated all the calls for miscarriages. We also eliminated all the calls for pregnancy and ill child, but then we looked and drilled a little bit further and we looked for cardiac emergencies. We found that there were about 8 calls a month to 911 regarding a cardiac emergency. Now, if you want to do the math, 8 times 12 is 96. 96 times 10 years, because we had the AEDs here for about 10 years. That's 960 calls for ambulances that possibly some neighbor could have intervened and helped. And that's really the only reason why I'm here. Now, let's take a look at this even closer for this audience. Now, I didn't know how many people were going to be here, and obviously this is off the top of my head, but assuming this is a representative section of SoliVita, everybody here except these 5 or 6 people, everybody here and this side too will have cardiovascular disease by the age of 75. If you can take it a little bit further, maybe from Frank, can you raise your hand? All right, from Frank all the way up to Faye, approximately 35% will die in the next couple of years from cardiovascular disease. So obviously this is something that should be of influence to all of us. When we look at the heart attacks, 80 to 85% of them occur in the home. That's where most people are most of the time. So when you take a look at that, what we also find out is that time is very, very important. Now, the 3 basic cardiac emergencies. One, of course, is a heart attack. The second is a stroke. And the third is sudden cardiac arrest. You do not want sudden cardiac arrest. That's the reason why we have the AEDs, as a matter of fact. If the heart is beating, you are not going to use an AED because our AED will not shock them. So what we find out about sudden cardiac arrest is that time, every minute counts. The key here is about 5 minutes. And as you can read in my post here, 3 to 5 minutes without any CPR or AED usually will result in significant brain damage. Anytime past 5 minutes, your chances of survival without somebody intervening is about 10%. Now, your survival rate will increase up to 45% if somebody can reach your house, reach your spouse, your partner, or your loved one within 5 minutes. And that's really what we have right now, 2 notification systems. We have Pulse Point and the one that I was suggesting that would work in tandem with Pulse Point, Ready Alert. Could you change the slide? So what we're going to be doing, in fact, let me give you a demonstration of what works. Let me see if I can find let me see. I see so many people here from Verona. Who's not from Verona? All right, Dave. Dave, you're going to be my pulse point responder right now. We just got an emergency alert that that emergency assistance is required at 458 Colony Orchard Court. Do you know where that is?
No.
Can you reach there in 3 minutes?
I don't know where there is.
Chris. Where's Chris? Chris, raise your hand. All right. Chris, you are ready alert. You got a alert too that there was an emergency, a cardiac emergency at 458 Colony Orchard Court. Do you know where that is? Why? Do you know where the nearest AED is? Can you get there in 3 to 5 minutes? You just saved a life. What I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, this is neighbor-based. It's not area-based. This is neighborhood-based. We just saved a life. If that were a real demonstration, we saved a life. And that's all we're really talking about. Now, I also heard, since I read all my comments, unfortunately, on Nextdoor, I have no plan, I have no organization, I have nothing. Really, what we're talking about right now is what I'm calling, first thing we're going to do is we want to inform the neighborhood, what we're trying to do. And again, one of the things I want to emphasize from the very beginning, I am not seeing this as an either or in terms of notification. Everything I've ever written is a both and. We see this as having tremendous advantages with a both and. And I'm going into a little bit more detail with that. But the first thing, obviously, we want to do is to recruit. Well, I mean, we first want to inform the neighborhood, and then we want to recruit. Now, I have, and I'm extremely proud of this, 25 people who already committed themselves in Verona to be responders. Could you all stand up so we can all recognize you right now? Now, again, my critics, and I sure have some, my critics have said that I would embarrass myself right now because nobody would be a responder. Nobody. So, incidentally, if you've all noticed, there's some things that they have in common. Not only are they better looking than me, but they're younger, stronger, and better. And that's important because one of the things we've learned is that while we have 4,500 people who have done no CPR, there aren't that many who do it effectively and correctly for anything more than a couple minutes. When we take a look at CPR, what they teach us is that you have to have 100 beats per minute. Remember the song, ha, 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 staying alive, something like that. And what they don't tell you is that if you want to be effective, you have to have 60 pounds of thrust after every single stroke. Now, if the ambulance takes 10 minutes, that's 1,000 strokes with 60 pounds of pressure. How many people do you think would be able to do that? How many women over the age of 75 and 80 do you think would be able to do 10 minutes? I can't. I'm almost at my expiration date right now, to be honest with you. I can't. And that's one reason, in fact, we have a couple people here who are nurses, and they would be the first to tell you, in the emergency room, you do 2 minutes and you get tapped on the shoulder. Why do you get tapped on the shoulder? Because somebody else takes over. Even people in their 25 or 35 years old who are professionals, they do 2 minutes. I'm going to stand up here and say, I don't know anybody who's going to do 10 minutes correctly. As a matter of fact, they even have an expression